Hello, pieces of my African soul family. Welcome to another episode, and I am your host, Jephthah Malela. So happy to have you here. Before I begin, I would like to give a shout out to my friend Kaleche. Thank you so much for your continued support. And if you'd like to be given a shout out, be sure to reach out to me, and I will definitely give you a shout out. Thank you so much for tuning in. On this episode, I am going to cover a story titled The Diary of a Depressed Shrink. It is one of the pieces from my book, Rocks Bleed Too and Other Stories. It covers the themes of mental health and mental health awareness. So I hope it helps you spark real and genuine conversations among you, your friends, and your family, so that we can have a healthier, better community. And if you're out there struggling with mental health issues, be sure to know you're not alone. You are walking this journey with many of us, and be sure to reach out to whoever you can reach out to, and nothing is impossible to solve. So we are together with you in this. The Diary of a Depressed Shrink. I don't like Mondays. It's like everyone postpones their troubles to this day, expecting and hoping that some other people will solve them. Thank goodness I only received one client today. Her name is Doris. I will not disclose her second name for confidentiality's sake. I am not sure if my diary is secure enough. The world isn't a safe place anymore. Has it ever been anyway? Stealing is a norm, killing is a game. At least the people of old were discreet about it. Just this week, my next door neighbor was robbed at gunpoint. Joro came home at about 4 p.m. and as though they'd been trailing him, they pushed their way in as he was locking the door. The four-man gang then gagged him, beat him up, and wiped his living room space clean. Saw him today. Clearly, he is still startled. He is moving out. I understand him. It was his turn. In Nairobi, you're safe until it's your turn. When it comes, all you've got to do is to pray they don't kill you. As my old man says, cha muhimu ni uhai, mali tunaweza pata, ni kubaya hika Nairo. The police try their best to protect us, but it is quite hard. There are quite a few for a population of over 50 million. I'm not sure, but I saw some statistic online and it quoted that the ratio of policemen to the civilians is 1 to 20,000. That's crazy. Not even Chala of Wakanda can handle a quarter of that at a time. Maybe the Flash would. Were he not fictitious? But even if he were real, he'd be based in the central city, which will be in the US of A. I can't blame our police force though. Most of them are paid peanuts and expected to work watermelons. So instead of chasing down criminals, they'd rather pick a 50 or 100 shilling bills on the streets, collectively enough to push them through hard economic times. Men and women have to hustle. That's my beautiful, wonderful silicon savannah of a country for you. Tembea Kenya rafiki, hakuna matata. Doris, yes. For the first time, I met someone who has been to the same part of hell I have been to. I call it the dark, endless alley. An episode that happens over and over again. A perpetual treadmill. It is a place where you are constantly attacked by demons, and when you eventually scream, it all gets sucked into oblivion. Doris is beautiful, petite with a skin the color of clay. Her walk is slow and graceful. Her blue dress embraces her body close. It runs from her neck all the way to her knees, or just a few inches above it. Her smile is as bright as her eyes. She is pretty. To a normal person, she'd pass for a very beautiful person. But I saw it. I saw the strain on her cheeks as she struggled to keep her smile going. I saw the darkness in her eyeballs, the small wrinkles, puffy eyes beneath her lower eyelid, and how she'd worked so well to hide it with the face mask. There was something. She just didn't know it yet. She sank into the swivel chair, and after minutes of introduction and uneasiness, we got into it. Doris was 16 when her parents divorced. It was a very hard time, but not as much as the 2 years prior to that. The love that was between her parents seemed to have dimmed out. From being the sun, their love became a lit candle, slowly burning out. It burned till the light went out and the wick vanished. Her father went out more often. On some nights, he went out and never came back for a night or two. Her mom would shout at him when he came home, but he didn't seem to care. He never said a word. He kept at it. Her mom would cry endlessly for hours. Doris wished she could help. She just didn't know how. For how can a cabin boy seize a shipwreck when the captain himself cannot? In months, it had become so bad, her father only came home once a week. Her mom became sad, withdrawn, and finally depressed. She was giving up. She stopped going shopping, seeing friends, and eventually quit her job. Their house suddenly became a jungle. The other animals never came to the waterhole when the lion came to quench his thirst. The monkeys stayed on the trees and the antelope walked the plains. They only had a few family times, like on Sunday when they sat on the dining table, sipping hot tea and stale bread in silence. Or on some Friday evenings when her father would stay home. Those days were dark. Doris preferred the silence of empty classrooms to the shout of dark sadness at home. So when she had the chance, she'd stay in school longer. For them to sit in a courtroom full of people on a hot January afternoon, her parents had gone through the phases of argument, silence, fights, and finally separation. The child custody case, the judge ruled in favor of her father, who was termed as more stable mentally and financially. Tears rained down Doris's cheeks as she looked at her mother. She was empty, literally. She was so thin that her cheekbones stuck out. Her eyes sockets had sunk in, maybe to fill into the space of her soul that had been lost. She couldn't speak a word in her defense, so she cried. Doris moved in with her father. She hated him and blamed him for everything. She felt that he had started it all, the fights, the silence, the separation, the sadness. She hated him more because he blamed her mother. She saw her mother only once a month, and there wasn't a time she was happier. For the first 3 months, her father tried every possible way to win her over. He tried gifts, he tried drives to school, making dinner, and even being home more often, but nothing he did would replace what had been lost: family. People often think that the sacredness of family can be replaced by gifts, money, or favors. Family needs people to love each other divinely, to care deeply, and to be there in good and bad times. He tried, but Doris wouldn't let him in. He tried till he couldn't anymore. He came home one evening. Doris was in the living room resting. He began yelling at her, saying that he'd tried his best to love her, but she didn't appreciate it. Doris got really scared. He then grabbed her and threw her onto the floor. He was going to slap her when he saw the tears in Doris's eyes and stopped. He walked away as if nothing had happened. She went into her room. He came into her room at about 11 p.m. The lights were out. She was half asleep then, and before she could fully come around, he was in her bed. His strong arms pinned her down. His hot breath fell upon her face, and as she recalls, it smelled of whiskey and spices. That was the first time.